How often, when something goes wrong, do we hear, "It will be okay," or "Everything will be okay"? But often that cancer doesn't go away. Sometimes we get that call that someone we love was lost in a car crash. Sometimes that pregnancy doesn't reach term again. Is "It will be okay" or "Everything will be okay" really a genuinely helpful answer? Maybe yes, maybe no. It depends on your perspective. How do we get perspective in these times? How could a loving and powerful God let them happen? It comes down to if our perspective is, this world is the big story, or if your perspective is, this world is a blink of an eye, life lesson and part of the real big story. In Hebrews 11, verses 36 to 40, which was written in a time frame where many of the readers could have seen Jesus themselves or talked with people who did directly. It tells of things that happened to the people in the early church that were quite harsh, things that they could have avoided if they just denied the claims about Jesus being God and rising from the dead. But they didn't deny what they knew to be true because of first or second hand accounts of real events and real people. In 2 Corinthians 11, verses 23 to 27, Paul recounts some of the hardships he went through for his ministries. But he was confident of his message because he expresses in multiple letters, like in Ephesians and Galatians and 1 Corinthians, that he received his gospel message directly from God. As such, he was willing to be persecuted and die for it. But why would God ask these people to go through these trials? Why would they be willing to? It's one thing to hear about some religious person that lived in the past, but it's different when you have direct evidence from those who were there and what they did. The message of the Bible is that this world and this life is a blink of an eye in our eternal lives. A brief time when we get to see the problems created when we run things our way. A brief time when we get to decide if our ways are best or God's ways are best. An honest look around at all the strife in this world should tell us that our ways are not best. Of course, we think all would be good if those other 8 billion people would just do things our way. Unfortunately, they think the same thing about their ways being better. But none of our ways, and the ways of the other 8 billion people, are a match for God's ways, which are foundation for perfect love and wisdom. But why does God let us do wrong? Why did he give us free will? Not addressing the issue of salvation itself, just our decisions before and after that. God gave us free will so that we would see what happens when we do things with it. We tend to primarily focus on self, which includes family, and that corrupts relationships in society and in the world. We create the problems of this world. God allows it so that when we get to heaven, there will be no argument such as the 1/3 of angels did that rebelled when they had their free will and were cast out of heaven. So, is everything going to be okay? Was it okay during Paul's life? Was it okay during the life of the early church? It's not likely that most would define it as being good. But they would definitely say that everything was going good in their overall eternal life, and they were willing to give their life for that. And that decision was based on reasonable evidence, not just a religion preached to them since they were children. Thanks for listening.